When we see cool movements in calisthenics, a lot of those athletes have strong and big shoulders. But how are you supposed to build your shoulders if you're not able to do those cool movements? That is why I will show you my favorite anterior, posterior, and lateral shoulder exercises that do not require a high skill ceiling or exceptional strength. These exercises can be repeated simply, and their difficulty is easy enough that so long as you have at least a good foundation of standard pull-ups and dips, they can be done. Some can be progressively overloaded through body adjustment or doing harder variations, and in my opinion, so as long as you do high volume, they are good for hypertrophy. The only thing you will need is parallel bars, and we are also going to answer the enigma of how to train lateral shoulders with bodyweight training at the end of the video without gymnastic rings. We first are going to talk about the anterior delts, which are the front of the shoulders. Many times in bodyweight training we see common compound exercises for pushing, the most popular ones being the push-up and the dip, both pushing movements that are great for hypertrophy. The push-up working on our horizontal pushing while the dip working on our vertical pushing with our arms aiming towards our legs. Personally, despite how good this exercise can be, they were never enough for my front shoulders in the context of pure calisthenics. And that is when two exercises come into play for our front shoulders: the pike push-up and the wall handstand push-up, both vertical pushing exercises with our arms aiming towards our head, which drastically uses our front shoulders, limiting the use of any other muscle unless we are talking about the triceps. First off, we are going to start with the pike push-up. To do this exercise, put yourself in a standard push-up position as an example to learn the form of the pike push-up. Bring your legs forward while keeping your hands in place. As they come forward, the height of your hips will inevitably rise, and keep your wrists aligned with your shoulders. As that is happening, you must protract your scapula, or in other words, put your chest in instead of out while elevating your scapula, and also keep your butt in instead of out. And now you are in the starting position. As you let yourself go down, two things must happen. Your arms will bend, and as your arms bend, your elbows should be aligned with your wrist. Also, your elbows should be in, not out, at least in the standard pike push-up form. As a result, your torso and the rest of the body will go down and forward with your shoulders. Once your elbows reach 90 degrees, push up and backwards. This is a bit more complicated to learn and to teach than a dip or standard push-up, not only because it is harder than both, but because the motion involves different directions at the same time. In a way, it is very similar to a squat. In the pike push-up, not only do you go down and up, but it also involves front and back. Remember, as you go down, your body must go forward, and as you go up, your body must come backwards. The pike push-up is a bent arm front shoulder flexion, basically. It is a really great exercise, easy to repeat, and if you have never tried it, it is really mind-blowing in the context of somebody who only used to do dips and push-ups. The only problem of the standard pike push-up in the floor is its limited range of motion caused by the floor itself. Because of the floor, our shoulders can't fully extend, and thus the range of motion does not involve fully stretched anterior delts. To solve this, it is very easy. Simply by doing it in common parallel bars, the range of motion is way higher and better, because the floor does not impede us, and to me is one of the best non-skilled front shoulder exercises, if not the better. The increased range of motion variation in the parallel bars are called deficit pike push-ups, and to me the deficit part of the name does not make sense. If anything, it should be called non-deficit pike push-up, because the floor acts as a deficit, no? To progressively overload, bring your legs closer to your hands and increase repetitions over time. To make it easier, distance your legs to your hands. A common mistake will be to have your legs too far away to the point that you are no longer in a starting position of the pike push-up, which will take your center of mass away from your shoulders. This exercise will also give you a lot of strength in your shoulders and will give you a direct transfer to skills like the free handstand push-up. High or moderate reps, moderate tempo, and moderate rest is recommended. The second exercise is the wall handstand push-up, which can be done with your stomach facing the wall or your back facing the wall. To me, both are good variations that should be taken into account. If the pike push-up was great, then this is basically the same but much heavier. After all, you're pushing your whole body weight when your center of gravity is completely aligned to your shoulders. and your legs are not supporting you as much as in the pike push-up. You must use socks to glide in the wall as you push, otherwise this exercise cannot be done effectively. The wall handstand push-up also faces the same problems of the standard pike push-up, which is the floor impeding shoulder extension and thus less range of motion and less shoulder stretch. If you have portable parallel bars that give you enough depth, the wall handstand push-up will be goated not only for hypertrophy but also strength. Still, the conventional wall handstand push-up is great despite the partial range of motion. Low or moderate reps, high or moderate rest, and a standard tempo is recommended. For posterior delts or the back of your shoulders, we have two exercises. The first one being the decline bodyweight row, and the second one being, like I would like to call it, vertical reverse flies. But before talking about them, we must talk about the function of the posterior delt. The posterior delt is used for shoulder extension, or in other words, bringing your arms to the back, while the anterior delt is used for shoulder flexion, or in other words, bringing your arms forward. The posterior delt is not only used for vertical shoulder extension, but also for, quote, horizontal shoulder extension, or in other words, horizontal abduction. In this way, the front shoulder is the prime mover, while the real delt is the antagonistic muscle. Knowing what is the function of a muscle or its movement pattern allows us to load that movement to make it an exercise. The first posterior delt exercise is the decline bodyweight row wide grip. We all know about conventional bodyweight rows. They are a great horizontal back exercise, but if you use a wide grip and use something to put your legs higher to make your body in a decline position, then it is far better for posterior delts, at least in my experience. The wide grip forces our elbows to be, quote, out, which mimics horizontal abduction, kinda similar like in a reverse fly, but with our arms bent. It is also somewhat similar to an upright row. To do this exercise, you must find two joint parallel bars of different height, or find something else to put your feet higher. A standard bodyweight row position, or you can have your legs bent, wide grip, and just pull. You will definitely notice your posterior delts. It will mimic to some extent a T-row position. The decline position to some extent makes this movement have a vertical abduction quality to it. It is not heavy, so high reps, low reps, and fast tempo is recommended. Its range of motion is not a lot, but if you aim to your chest, you can increase the range of motion a bit. Progressively overload, you can increase reps, decrease rest, or increased declination. Also, you will feel your upper traps a bit. The second exercise I like to call vertical reverse flies. Like in a reverse fly, you are bringing your arms to the back, or in other words, doing shoulder extension with your arms vertically aiming down. At first sight, along with the pike push-up, this is an exercise that may look kinda lame, like it does not work at all, but it does. First off, you must find parallel bars that are at the height of your hips or close to it. Any taller or lower, and the exercise can drastically change. That is all you need. If you do not have that, I guess you could grab two vertical bars and still be able to do this exercise. After grabbing the bars, you must move your feet forward, and this will cause your body to be in an inclined position. You will notice that your arms are forward. I recommend only your heels to be in contact with the floor. You will notice that this puts the posterior delt in a stretch position, and it is up to you to either have your scapula protracted or retracted. I guess a protracted scapula will accentuate posterior delt stretch. With your arms a little bent, pull while keeping your arms as straight as possible. When your arms are parallel to the rest of your body, that is when the repetition ends. You will notice that the tension is greater in the initial stretch position, and as you pull, tension will disappear to some extent. Also, the range of motion is short, but you could say that this exercise is an elongated partial to some extent, making it harder in the start and easier in the end. I personally like the feeling in this exercise, and you definitely can feel the posterior delts heavily. To make this exercise harder, I guess you could bring your hips backwards. Also, a bit of your triceps will be used. High reps, slow tempo, and low rest is recommended. And now what everybody was waiting for. How do we train the lateral delts? I think every calisthenic dude in the world thought at any point in his training this question: what will be the bodyweight equivalent of a lateral dumbbell raise or any similar? And so, if we want to train the lateral delts, we must perform the function of it, which is lateral abduction. In other words, bringing our arms sideways. At first sight, there does not seem to be a way to do this particular movement with any kind of parallel bars, but with rings, it is another story. Theoretically, if you invert your body and you hold rings like in an inverted shrug position and you abduct your arms, you will be doing a bodyweight lateral raise. The problem with this is that not only you will need balance to do this, but you will also need to be an Olympic level athlete to do this movement. You are basically doing a lateral raise with your whole body weight. It will be too heavy to even attempt it, and therefore risk of injury will be high too. Also, what is the point of an exercise if only the 0.000000001% of the population can do it? But if instead of having our body inverted and completely vertical, we put our body in a decline position with rings while we are supporting the movement with our legs, like in the decline bodyweight row, we could, since the rings allow freehand movement, to do a decline reverse fly that will heavily target the lateral delts. And even with leg support, this will still be a very difficult exercise. Knowing that we cannot do a direct abduction of lateral shoulders, but knowing the function and movement of the lateral shoulder, then we can use different grips in the aforementioned exercises to mimic to some extent lateral shoulder abduction, which could also be considered lateral shoulder flexion, at least in my view. Instead of having your elbows in the pike push-up, we can have them out in a wide grip to put our elbows out and parallel to our body. This defies conventional pike push-up form, but with a purpose. If we have a wide grip, then despite the external rotation of our shoulders, we will be doing lateral shoulder flexion with bent arms. In fact, mimicking to some extent shoulder abduction. The only problem with this is that the shoulder is externally rotated, but still, the lateral shoulder is felt way more in this variation. The problem with this is also the floor impeding us from stretching the shoulders. The same wide grip can be applied to a wall handstand push-up. A wide grip in the decline bodyweight row also involves a bit of lateral shoulder abduction because of the decline position, which also stimulates a bit of our lateral shoulders. A close grip also can be used while trying to bring our elbows out and up in the decline bodyweight row. The last exercise in which I feel the lateral shoulders is the leg supported back lever pull-up. Similar like a back lever pull-up, but not quite, because in this variation we can have our legs as support. This can be done either in an inclined position or completely horizontal. As you pull, bring your hands as close as possible to your trapezius, in difference with the conventional back lever which aims at the lower back. Also, this could be done with a wide grip. As you notice, this also involves a bit of shoulder abduction and therefore lateral shoulder, and I personally do it for my lateral shoulders sometimes. These 5 exercises I really like for my shoulders. They can be done by people with good pull-ups and dips. You don't need to be a calisthenic god to do them. They can condition your shoulders for skills like the handstand push-up and build your muscle. They do not require any kind of balance and will give you a good pump with enough repetitions. This list of my favorite exercises do not involve an exercise like the ring face pull or the ring reverse fly, which are good shoulder exercises with rings, because honestly I do not train with rings that much anymore. Also, this list does not have any kind of direct external rotation to internal rotation exercises like the face pull, which might be beneficial to avoid injury. These exercises are great and I hope you try them and let me know how you feel about them in the comments.